Greetings, everyone. Welcome to this edition of the Angels at 40,000 Feet weekly reading. I'm Reverend Chris Oldham. It is Monday, March 9th. My, how time flies. We have 12 days till the equinox and some other big events coming up. The Love Blast that I will post the link to below and in this video that I did a short video on, or actually a chrysalis edition on the Love Blast and what it's all about, and it's getting ready to come through, and so we're leading up to that. Everything has been speeding up. In case you haven't noticed, I received a vision the other day. It wasn't so much a vision as I could literally feel kind of being sucked up into this vortex, this time-space vortex, with everything speeding up and time speeding up, everything being compressed, time between events being compressed really, really tightly, and things just spiraling now. So be prepared for that. Whatever is going on in the physical plane at eye level is just part of that. So try not to get carried away by it and into it. Try to anchor yourself, right? Do some grounding and make sure that when you ground, and when I say ground, I don't mean just like walk around barefoot. I mean literally, mentally instruct your body to ground itself down through your Earth Star chakra. Just contact with the ground or at ground is not enough. You got to go down into the ground through your Earth Star and anchor there. That's our anchor, right? We need to have that. And we need to have that spindle of light that runs from divine source down to and through our Earth Star chakra. So make it a regular practice to make that intent. Just command, say, I intend that my central channel or spindle of light is fully active from divine source down through my Earth Star to the heart of Gaia. You can even go further to the heart of Gaia. You just want to be firmly anchored into the present on the timeline and not distracted and pulled away in different directions by all of the things that are now and will continue to accelerate and amplify and build up. There's a crescendo to this coming. There are things happening now that we wouldn't have imagined happening. And one of those I just was looking at this morning had to do with CNN, of all things, downplaying or pointing out the fallacies in the Democratic Socialist platform, and specifically aiming at the things that Bernie was proposing, which is also the same platform that all the other Democrats were in agreement upon. Go back to the debates and look, they're all on the same page on all these issues. And CNN is like trashing them, saying, I don't think so. So that's kind of a turnaround and switch. There are, again, so many arrests coming and have been this week, so many indictments, things like Jussie Smollett's bid with the Illinois Supreme Court to get the indictments against him thrown out. Court said, nope, you are going to go to court and you're going to get tried for this. We have all of these sex trafficking and fraud indictments. And, we have CEOs, we have teachers, professors, pastors, ministers, all across the board, government officials being carried off and indicted for sex trafficking and fraud and other criminal activities. It's in the open. All you have to do is look. Now, if you are watching one of the mainstream media like CNN or MSNBC or ABC or any of them, or even Fox to some degree, you are not going to get shown all of this. You've got to go online and do some research to find out what the heck is going on. Maybe even on YouTube and do some research. Or I would recommend, if you're looking for a balanced news source, I would recommend the Epoch Times, EPOCH Times. They're both an online and a print news source, and they operate globally. And they do a pretty good job of saying, okay, here's what's going on, without telling you what to think about it, which is what real news and real journalism is about. So something else that's been coming, another vision that was shown to me this week, and when you see the reading this week, it talks greatly about this speeding up of things and more light coming into things. And as I was, meditating the other day, and I was thinking about this, and I was doing some praying, I was shown a vision of, if you remember, there were years ago, there was, George and Barbara Bush had this thing about 1,000 points of light, which was about volunteerism and stuff in America and the spirit of America to help each other do things. That's not what this is about, but if you think about 1,000 points of light like 1,000 candles, this is, instead of candles, think of all over the world, just a firecracker going kaboom off over everybody's, over all of the unenlightened and unawakened people in the world. You can just see it was just shown to me, almost like either a firecracker or, the switch going on and the light bulb going on inside the head. You can see that the light's going on all over the world in totality. This is what's coming. There's an event coming, and it has to do with this love blast that's coming through, and the light that is streaming now and being anchored into this planet, and coming from the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious is now at a point where it is modeling this light-filled awakened template into the morphic fields of humanity. And the love blast is going to help activate that. So when the love blast comes through, it's going to get rid of all the remaining barriers to that activation and the embodying and expression of that activation and of the awakening model that's now in the morphic fields of everyone on the planet. So those lights are going off. They're just getting ready to turn on all over in this huge, just like boom, around the planet. And it won't matter where on the planet these people are. Whether they're out in a boonies somewhere, this love wave is coming through. They don't have to be watching TV. They don't have to be, near neighbors. They don't have to be in a metropolitan area. It's just going to swing through. So that was something else that I was shown. Another thing that I wanted to pass on to you before we get actually into the reading itself has to do with it came about as a result of something said about the coronavirus, but it doesn't apply just to this. All right. I was listening to Mike Thompson, who is, by the way, a very strong, accurate prophet. And he was talking about something about, the revelations, the great reawakening of the Christed body. And in the evangelical church, there is a lot of talk about that, about people coming back to Christ. Now, I'm not going to go into the religious aspects of things. I'm going to show you, and this ties in with what I've talked about before, with one of the ways that the forces of light are actually using this whole, and again, I'll call it ridiculous, coronavirus episode, because there's absolutely no reason in God's green earth that we should be all up in arms and in fear about this and taking all these freaking measures that we're doing. But this is all part of how the light is using this. Because when people get to a place where they don't know what to do, and there's nothing that they can see around them, nothing that they can create in their minds that gives them any direction or answers, or find in the mental physical realm, then where do people go to find their answers? Where do they go when they have no clue what to do, and there's no advice or answers or instruction coming from anywhere else? Where do they go? They look outside themselves, beyond themselves, connect with higher knowing and guidance. It's instinctive. It's how we're programmed. We have free will, so many of us mentally ignore that programming and shut it down. But when we get broken down to a point where we have to surrender, because we surrender to the fact that we have no control over the situation in any way. And when we get to that point of surrender, that's when we start looking upstairs, when we start connecting with those higher parts of our knowing that are connected to divine source. And as this program is coming in now and being activated, that looking is bringing in and connecting us to the Christed light, opening the door for us to fully allow and infuse with that light, and eventually to incorporate the Christed consciousness into that. And the vision that I was shown, that what the evangelicals are calling revival, but when he said that word, what I was shown was that it wasn't about coming back to the church per se. It was about connecting to divine source through, and allowing and connecting to the Christed light, which is all there for all of you who aren't connected to it yet. It's there waiting in the wings for that door to be open, and you will be connected to it. And as I was shown the vision of people coming into connection with the Christed light, with the divine source, and that pillar and connection of light holds us safe from pathogens protects our health. Does it make us immune from them, like we won't get infected? No, but it nullifies the infection when it gets here. It says, no, we don't accept this. This is not of the light. We're not taking this, and we are aligned with the light and the Holy Spirit and the Christ, and the Christed light and divine source. We're aligned with that. That exists here, and so this can't exist here. It may come into your system, but it's going to die there too. It'll just be, you may or may not have symptoms. If you do, they won't last very long. Connection into that light puts us in a protected state. And I'm sharing this as a vision that I got. You can do with it what you want. I don't want any nasty comments about this because I'm sharing what I got. Do with it what you want. I'm not telling you that you have to immediately get down and pray and connect with the Christ light. I'm not telling you you have to get connected with Jesus, because the Christed light and Jesus are not necessarily the same thing. The Christed light had to do with Jesus's mission here. He was the scion of the Christed light here on earth to teach us and show us our truth. And the fact that he voluntarily was crucified in order to make the point still blows my mind to this day. So this was a man of great power and faith and great knowledge and light, which he brought to us. So the Christed light is something that belongs to each one of us. Doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are, or if you even have any. The Christed light is part of our heritage in our intended state of being in the physical plane. And as we ascend into the fullness of our dual state of being, the seen physical and the non-physical aspects of our beings, that's just part of it. So we're rising into that. All right. So that's the end of the other stuff, the incidental things that I wanted to share with you today before we get started with the actual reading that I did. And I pulled the cards last night because I don't want to waste your time pulling cards. And I made some notes on them. And so the deck that I'm using today is this beautiful deck of fractal images called Path of the Soul. And it was an unusual thing for my team to have me use these because the clues are all visual. There are no verbal messages on these. There, if you're familiar, there is a deck by, and who is it? I'll remember his name at some point, but there's another deck similar to this where it is all just images and no keys associated with the images. There's a book that goes along with it, but you're only looking at the image. So let's get to the first one. Well, actually, let's get to the first one. Okay. So last week's reading has been spot on. There was so much going on. It was all above surface, as we talked about. And I want to just remind you about the archetypes that were here, that were in play. And I said that I felt like there was a wind, like, we've had the mystic that's coming in and saying, and knocking out the fool. And in this case, what I'm shown after this week is that the Fool represents all of the hype and hysteria being generated over the coronavirus. The Mystic represents all of those who are looking at this with some common sense and some higher visions and saying, this is nonsense. It's nothing. All right. You're all blown out and bent out of shape over nothing. Forget the hysteria. Knock it off. Stop the fear. Right? So what's happening because of the fear? Stock markets are crashing. There are quarantines. There is trade interruption. All of these things all over the world that are creating more grief and catastrophe than the freaking virus is. Why? Okay. The Mystic is saying, looking at that and saying, I don't think so. Get over yourself. Stop the hysteria. Move on. Don't give it any more energy. Breathe. Direct yourself somewhere else. So that's what those two archetypes were about last week. Okay. And if you look, one of the signals there had to do with people just coming out and saying, excuse me, how many people have died from the flu this year in 2020 versus how many have died, and that's in the US, versus how many have died globally from this coronavirus that everybody's in a state of panic about. We've had something on the order of 20,000 deaths in the US. And while everybody keeps digging on the internet and they're trying to come up with real numbers for deaths of the coronavirus, reports of hundreds of thousands of deaths in China, unreported deaths in Iran, hundreds of thousands, and people in the thousands are dying in Iran. And by the way, I have, I wouldn't recommend this, but it's the way spirit works, is that what is going on in Iran is this coronavirus is going to be the linchpin to overthrowing this horrible mullah regime that has been so repressing and abusing the Iranian people. So watch for that. Watch for that to happen. All right, so now for the first card. This deck, see what I mean? It's fractal images. And if you look at this one, you can kind of see a face in there. And this card is referencing Chenrezig, which is a Buddhist, was it Sadhisvats or whatever it is? Okay, it's like a Buddhist kind of deity or saint. And the Chenrezig, there is a chant associated with this being, and it is the traditional, the Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Okay, and this is about, and the meaning of that is as close as I can get it to what the definite, each word does, is basically saying that the divine jewel or sun, right, opens the lotus to enlightenment. So connecting to the divine, that jewel opens the lotus to enlightenment. Now, that's what the Chenrezig, the core of it is. Now, what is happening here, you see all of these rays, right, of light coming off, and the colors, in greens and blues. This has to do, this message for this week is telling us that there is a turning point. This is a major turning point globally, where the manifestation of a lot of good things is going to come into play. And it is going to be what is called free-flowing manifestation. It's just going to, one after another, after another, after another, these things are going to start happening. And they're all good things. They're all things that are happening in alignment with the light. Now, if you are looking at the things that are happening and you're thinking, this isn't a good thing, how can anybody say this is good? This is horrible. Then you might want to look at the derivation of that belief. You might have been led and conditioned to a set of beliefs that was fostered in the control matrix. And that set of beliefs has been controlling your thoughts and actions, unbeknownst to you, unaware of it. So start being aware of those things. Come into awareness. You can call me crazy right now, that's fine, or you can, but just if you put any, just don't comment nasty stuff, because that is the first defense of people who are not of the light, is nasty stuff. So let's stop that. Let's come higher. Let's go higher. Let's do love, right? So this card is talking about if we thought things were moving fast last week, look out, because all kinds of things are getting ready to manifest, come into the light. The good stuff is coming. The bad stuff is being rooted out and making way for all of these light-filled manifestations. And this applies both globally, right? Because that's the focus of this reading, is global, but it also applies individually. So be looking for things that you have desired for quite a while to start showing up. Opportunities, financial inflow, healing of illness, okay? Peace. If you have not been at peace and you have had a scattered and anxious mind, all kinds of things coming to you that you have been trying to manifest. So these things are going to start showing up in some ways, globally and personally. So you can claim that. You can sit here and claim that for yourself now. Say, I claim this for myself. All of these things, I claim the things that I desire to be manifest. I claim that for myself. You can do that right now. And actually, I'm being guided by the angels as part of this reading. If you're going to claim that for yourself, do so now, and it shall be so. And so it is. Thank you, dearest. So let's move on to the next card. And again, a beautiful card. Look at how pretty this is, right? Beautiful card. And so what is this card about? It's about beauty and truth. It's about all of the things that have been corrupted and shrouded in darkness, covered up, are going to be coming into light. The beauty is going to be shown. We're going to see the truth. We're going to see all of these things as they come into light, shown to us, the ugliness washed away, and the beauty and truth starting to come to the surface, right? In many, many, many ways. What has been hidden is going to come into the open. And a lot of these things have to do with, and it's not, let me put it this way. when we say beauty, all right, everything is not beautiful according to cultural norms. I'm talking about the beauty of truth and of symmetry in things coming into light, where you may only have half the story and the other half is going to show up. And as a whole, that then has a beauty of its own. All right. And I'm getting the message life force here. Life force, increasing life force. Spring, right? That's what's coming now, the sap rising in the trees. Well, this is what's happening. The sap is rising and creating a beautiful world. For those of you in the southern hemisphere, you have it going down, but picture that this is like the sap rising in the spring to bring out the buds in the trees and the flowers blooming. This is the message of this card. Sap is rising. Beauty is going to be exposed. It's building this, but it's clearing things out of the way that have prevented us from seeing this or prevented it from happening, have hidden these things away. All right, so enough for that card. The third card has to do, right, and see how beautiful this one is? Again, they're all beautiful images, absolutely gorgeous. And so what is this reminding you of? To me, I looked at this and I immediately thought, and it's a really strong, it's not quite red. Yeah, right, because that's, no, that's a pretty red. It's kind of an orangey, deep orangey red, maybe a sacral chakra kind of a red when you look at that. And this has to do, the message of this card is awakening. Just like I told you at the beginning, all the lights going off. And the message here in the awakening that I received for this card has to do with us being able to actually see the truths that are being revealed as the sap rises and everything comes into focus and into bloom. Are we going to actually be able to see these things? Or is our vision going to be clouded and we're not going to be able to see the beautiful things that are happening because we're still not awakened and we're still in a control matrix belief set that won't allow us to see this and makes us believe that it's nasty and it's horrible and we have to do away with this. That's the duality of thought that's going on, or the contrast that's going on here. So the awakening that's coming, that is part of what is going on, and it's going to be coming in a big way this week, is going to put these things in front of us in a way that is going to really challenge us not to see it. And since that, that awakening trigger is sitting there waiting for that situation or event to be put in front of our faces, where there's this cognitive dissonance is generated, boom, the awakening happens. It's like, oh, no, that can't be right. That's not what I've been told. Can this be true? Oh my God, it is true. I've been lied to. So this is the core of this week's energies globally, not just personally, globally. But because it is an awakening, it is a personal thing, right? So know that, and it doesn't matter what point of awakening we all think we are at. There's some of every one of us that are going to be challenged in some way to look at something and said, "Oh my God, they kept that from us too." So this is coming. Wonderful, good. I mean, this reading is just like all kinds of good news. So the fourth card, and addresses all that's come before that, right? We said we've got the awakening, we've got the opening, we've got the hidden truths coming out, all of these things going to be revealed. And this card is the one which is wonderful. And this is the card that represents consciousness. The message here is that even after you have seen, right, all of these things, and you have watched the truth coming into being, and the manifestation that the light is bringing in, that is exposing this dark, nasty stuff. Oh, excuse me. Michael, remove this from my home and seal the access. So what's happening, this card represents consciousness, and it has to do with our ability to absorb this stuff, right? Our ability to transmute our belief systems and our thought processes, and to reorganize them. And that's what this card represents, is there's help coming, that's going to help us do that. It's going to be a healing energy, healing of our thought processes and our belief systems, our very way of being, that all of the corruption and hidden truths, right? And Chenrezig, by the way, is the deity of compassion in the Buddhic tradition. And so compassion is opening all of this stuff up, is showing you truth. If you have a friend who you know is being led astray, is it compassionate to continue when you know that they're being led astray, to just keep quiet and let that happen? No, compassion opens the door to truth for them, and accepts that they may not appreciate that you've opened that door, but that's part of what compassion is that's feeling their responsibility to support truth. So what's happening also this week has to do with our consciousness and a reorganization of consciousness. Our very way of being in the world, and approaching things and evaluating things in the world, is coming up to be healed. The healing, not just of the entirety of our mental bodies, is coming up to be healed, restructured. So those of you for whom this is happening, and I expect it's pretty much all of us, and because this is global, it has to do also with some cultural beliefs and ways of being and operating tribally. Give you a big yes on that one. So it's going to also cause this balance to be applied to the entirety of our mental bodies. So expect at some point that you're going to feel mentally cloudy, or sleepy, or feel like you just can't keep your eyeballs open, you can't concentrate on anything. when you feel that that's happening, this is most likely what's going on. Is that this reorganization of consciousness is going on and being, it'll go on at the bigger levels and then it's being trickled down personally into you. So beware for that. That's awesome, wonderful news. All right, so the next card that I have, and look at this one. Isn't that beautiful? This card is called Joyous. And you can see the joy in it. Look at the purple colors, the purple and the green and the blue and the white and all of that. And this is about heart opening. Remember, I talked about that at the beginning, about how we have the love blast coming through. Well, this is going to be preparing us for that to come through, to help us to open up in that. And part of the message is to, and I got this with another deck that I started with and went to this one. But part of the message I'm getting for all of us is to start, pull away from the things that are pulling us down emotionally. Dance. Play music that pumps you up, gets you feeling really good. Play some music, dance a little bit, move around, change up the energy, lighten the mood. Do those things, because if you do those things, it also helps to open your heart, right? When we have all this density and just depressing negative stuff going on, our hearts tend to close down. And so lighten it up. Go out and be with people. Go watch a movie that you want to watch. Just get outside and run around, and maybe you may be able to start planting your garden for the year, or do some planting or some gardening, or, pre-spring work. Just do things that make you happy. Watch a freaking movie that's so funny you're falling over laughing because you can't stand it. Blast the music. And I'm not talking about just peaceful flowing music, which a lot of us tend to do. No, I'm talking go back to the heart pounding, thumping music that gets your body moving and lifts your spirit and raises your vibration and takes you out of the doldrums. Start getting reacquainted with joy, because there's huge heart opening that's coming this week. And help it along. You'll be glad you did. Now, the last card that comes is this one. And this card is about revelations. All right, more about things that are coming to light, being revealed to us. And helping us to gain and develop new perspectives on the way we have been looking at things, right? This comes into this consciousness card that's going to help us to revamp and I don't want to use the word program. It's going to revamp and restore corrupted belief systems and thought patterns and all of that. Everything that has been put in place by the forces of Team Dark, let's say, and the control matrix that doesn't serve us. Those things are going to be broken up and repaired as they were meant to be, according to our true divine templates, blueprints, and programming. So what this last card for this part of the reading has to do with that once all of this takes place, and then we have, we have the heart opening coming through with it. And I don't know if that's about the love blast that's coming this week. No. Okay. This just has to do with preparatory work, that heart opening, and the being able to see and receive through our soul, our divine connection. Remember, I said every day, make sure that you're on that spindle of light and it's hooked to divine source and down into Gaia through your Earth star. But as those things come into play, the overall picture for this week is of revelation. We're going to be bombarded with things that have been hidden for a long time. We're going to have whole truth where only half truth existed. There are people and agencies and media that have concocted propaganda and misdirection and half-truths to get you aligned with their agenda and the narrative they want you to be a part of and believe. That's part of the control matrix. You gotta control your thoughts. So now we're going to start seeing the whole truth and being able to understand that that is a whole truth. And so that all of the places, right? We're not just talking about the truths themselves and being able to see them, but we are going to be able to see who is telling us this crap. Who's giving us this stuff, right? We're going to start looking at the MSM and we're going to be ready to out there with torches and pitchforks for these people in the media who have been selling this stuff to us knowing that it was a bunch of crap. And if they didn't know that it was a bunch of crap, then there are a bunch of higher ups who did know that it was a bunch of crap. We're going to be out there with pitchforks looking at why they've all been telling us the same story all of this time, and it was all a bunch of crap. Where are they getting their story and their narrative from? Huh? Who's writing their news bites? Who's telling them what to say? Who's giving them the propaganda? Who's benefiting from this? And it's not just the news media. We're going to be looking at CEOs and companies. We're going to be looking at government officials. We're going to be looking at healthcare. We're going to be looking at the CDC and vaccines, saying, I don't think so. You tell me that this is safe and you have studies to prove to me that it is safe before I give myself and my kids another damn vaccination. If you can't prove that this is safe, then you cannot hold me to these laws that tell me I have to have this because they were based on false information. Those are the kind of things that we're going to start doing when these revelations come out. And trust me, they're going to be coming out in every area of life. People that we wouldn't believe engaged in sex trafficking. I think that Corey Feldman's expose is due out sometime in the next week. That's going to blow up a lot of people and a lot of organizations and shock the crap out of people. So be looking for this. This is the theme of the week overall. This is where we're headed. We are just headed to blowing it all up and seeing what's behind the screen. Who's the Wizard of Oz? We're going to be pulling back that curtain this week. Be prepared for it. So that's the reading for this week. It's all kinds of amazing, good, light-filled things. It may not seem like it or feel like it at ground level, but truly, it really, really is. So, turn on the music, dance, be happy, go out, get in the sunlight. Enjoy this first week before this last week of winter as it's coming through, or almost second to last week. Okay, so that's the bulk of the reading with the individual details coming through. So again, I pulled archetype cards to get an idea of what are the overarching archetypes that are at work for this coming week. So remember last week we had the Fool and the Mystic at work. I got them both upside down. Good for me. All right, there we go, the Fool and the Mystic. This week we have the prostitute archetype. And in this case, the prostitute is in the light attribute, not the shadow attribute. The shadow attribute is a matter of selling yourself for whatever, not your body so much, but selling your soul, right? To get something for it. But in the light attribute, this is highlighting the power of, and what does it say here? Yeah, accentuates the challenge of surviving without negotiating the power of your spirit. This says, no, this is going to be the energy coming in. It says, no, there's no trade-off here. I don't need to sell my soul, to belittle my spirit, to give away any part of me or my power to you so that I can survive. Part of this may have to do with the coronavirus. So this has to do with survivalists. So guess what the other card coming in is? The survivalist. Now this is an archetype that I discovered. That's why it's handwritten. The survivalist, and this is going to be coming in the shadow aspect of the survivalist. And what this is, and you can see it's about the survivalist archetype is about getting by, having just enough. So it's like in the positive attitude, it's no matter what happens, you know that you're going to get through, right? That's a good light-filled, okay. In the negative aspect of it, it supports poverty and it locks you into that survivalist mentality where I will never have enough, or I will always, or let's put it, I will always only have just what I need and nothing more. I won't have extra. All right. The not allowing of prosperity, the just making it, stuck in that place of just getting by. And this is applied not just physically and financially, this is applied spiritually as well. I'm getting that message that this is about fear of expanding in spirit, wanting to stay small and play small. All right. It's like, I've got by just the way I am. I don't have to change. I'm not going to change anything. I'm going to keep doing things just the way I've been doing it. I'm getting by. And that's you're playing small. And the resistance to expanding and playing big and releasing your limits on yourself. So there is going to, and the survivalist, and both of these, right? If you look at both of these apply to, in part to the coronavirus ridiculousness that's sweeping the planet. We have one group that says, you're not going to tell me what to do or how to do, and I'm not giving up my spirit or whatever to move through this because I know I've got it covered. And then the other part that just says, no, this has to be awful. I'm going to survive it. I'm just going to keep doing what I am. I'm going to be limited. I'm going to be closed down and stay in fear. Because in the negative aspect, the survivalist archetype is fear. It's darkness. It's like, I'm not allowed to have any more than this, right? Or be any more than this. So there are these two archetypes that are coming into play. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out during the week. Be looking for this. Be looking for the energies of this light attribute of the prostitute that says, no, I'm not selling my soul or any part of me or any part of my being or what I am. I'm not trading that off for anything. There is nothing more important than this. And I'm good to go. You know, threaten me, do what you want, whatever. No, I'm good. I'm going to stay right where I am and follow the path of light and follow my spirit and do what my spirit, my soul guide me to do. That's where this is coming. You know, this is that archetype there. That's what we're looking at. And this applies not just to individual, remember, this is global. So there are countries who have been adopting light-filled freedom type belief structures. They're changing their tribal belief and cultural belief structures, and they're not going to sell out. They're not going to toe the line because somebody else or some other country or some other force says you have to do this or else. And they're going to say, no, not. And then, you know, there's the other side that is willing to do anything and, you know, and be whatever they need to do in order to just get by, to survive, to have enough. And, you know, because the people that are in survivalist mode, right? I've been there, done that. It's tough to get out of. It's tough to shed those beliefs that, because there are some religious traditions that will teach us that it's not okay to have more than you need because that's wasteful or it shortchanges others. Well, it took a long time for me to get out of the fact, well, wait a minute, who is it shortchanging? Which billionaire is my having more than I absolutely have to just barely survive? Who is that shortchanging? Shortchanging me, that's for sure, by not having that stuff. So it takes a while to get out of it. So anyway, these are the archetypes. We have the prostitute who is not going to lay down any part of her being for any reason that does not serve the light in her spirit and her soul. And then we have the survivalist who's going to do anything they need to do or feel they need to do and accept that thumb that limits them, that pushes down, and they're going to accept that. So we have these two sides. Again, it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. So this went much longer than I had planned for it to do today. I guess I was in a Gabby mood today. I hope you've hung on to this point. And as you have been listening today, you have been receiving encodings to help you move through this week and move through all of these things that are coming, that are part of the energies of this week, globally and personally. So you've been receiving encodings that are going to help you move through that in an easier way, simplicity and ease, to help you ride the wave. Remember, we're going to ride the wave. We don't want to get sucked under. Find out you're being sucked under, step back, take a breath and say, not my circus, not my monkeys, and go off and do something else. That's my last word for today, my dear ones. Thank you for hanging in here with me. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you again next Monday. Peace, love, and joy.